Chapter 9. How to Use the Will. To set about obtaining a good life in a scientific way, you do not try to apply your willpower to anything outside of yourself. You have no right to do so anyway. It is wrong to apply your will to other women and men in order to get them to do what you wish done. It is as flagrantly wrong to coerce people by mental force or power as it is to coerce them by physical force or power. If compelling people by physical force to do things for you reduces them to slavery, compelling them by mental means accomplishes exactly the same thing. The only difference is in methods. If taking things from people by physical force is robbery, then taking things by mental force is robbery also. There's no difference in principle. You have no right to use your willpower upon another person, even, quote, for their own good, end quote. For you do not know what is for their good. The science of wealth and abundance does not require you to apply power or force to any other person in any way whatsoever. There is not the slightest necessity for doing so. Indeed, any attempts to use your will upon others will only tend to defeat your purpose. You do not need to apply your will to things in order to compel them to come to you. That would simply be trying to coerce God and would be foolish and useless, as well as irreverent. You do not have to compel God to give you good things any more than you have to use your willpower to make the sun rise. You do not have to use your willpower to conquer an unfriendly deity or to make stubborn and rebellious forces do your bidding. Intelligent presence is friendly to you and is more anxious to give you what you want than you are to get it. To have access to and free use of many things, to have abundance, you only need to use your willpower upon yourself. When you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things. That is the legitimate use of the will in getting what you want, to use it in holding yourself to the right course. Use your will to keep yourself thinking and acting in a certain way. Do not try to project your will or your thoughts or your mind out into space to act on things or people. Keep your mind at home. It can accomplish more there than anywhere else. Use your mind to form a mental image of what you want and to hold that vision with faith, trust, and purpose. And use your will to keep your mind working in the right way. The more steady and continuous your faith, trust, and purpose, the more rapidly you will have access to and free use of many things. The more rapidly you will have abundance, because you will make only positive impressions upon intelligent presence, and you will not neutralize or offset them by negative impressions. The picture of your desires, held with faith and trust, is taken up by the formless and permeates it to great distances throughout the universe for all we know. As this impression spreads, all things are set moving towards its realization. Every living thing, every inanimate thing, and the things yet uncreated are stirred toward bringing into being that which you want. force begins to be exerted in that direction, and the things begin to move toward you. The minds of people everywhere are influenced toward doing the things necessary to the fulfilling of your desires, and they work for you unconsciously. But you can check all this by starting a negative impression in the formless intelligence. Prolonged doubt or unbelief are certain to impede a movement towards you, as faith and trust and purpose are to start one toward you. It is not by understanding this that most people who try to make use of mental science in abundance make their failure. Every prolonged moment you spend in giving heed to doubts and fears, every hour you spend in worry, every hour in which your soul is possessed by unbelief, arrests the whole domain of intelligent presence. The promises are unto them that believe. Notice how insistent Jesus was upon this point of belief, and now you know the reason why. Note, this also brings to attention to the knowing that formless intelligence is feeling. He knows the struggles that we have as humans and as human beings, and has compassion. It is not an immediate moving away, an immediate arresting. We are given time to become aware of our thoughts and actions, always. As pointed out previously, God is patient. Even in the examples the author uses about Jesus, he had very real and immediate great moments, or at least one great moment of fear. But God did not smack him down for fearing or for doubting, for wanting the cut passed from him. We don't get smacked in the head for doing something initially, but if we persist in a way of thinking and doing, then we ultimately get smacked on the head, but not necessarily by God, by the natural consequences of persisting in that train of thought, in that way of being, according to the laws established that have already been mentioned. End note. Since belief is all important, it behooves you to be mindful of and guard your thoughts. And as your beliefs will be shaped to a very great extent by the things you observe and think about, it is important that you should command your attention. And here the will comes into use, for it is by your will that you determine upon what things your attention shall be fixed. If you want to have access to and free use of many things, if you want to have abundance, you must not make a study of poverty. Things are not brought into being by thinking prolongedly about their opposites. Health is not attained by studying disease and thinking about disease. Righteousness is not promoted by prolonged studying of sin and thinking about sin. No one ever obtained wealth studying poverty and thinking about poverty. Personal note. I don't necessarily agree with how this author is formulating this idea, but there is enough in it for me to leave it in because I feel like I understand where he is trying to go. Prolonged thinking and sustained thinking about hard things, evil things, so to speak, does not necessarily aid in their disintegration, in their defeat. But there is some merit to the study of them. If we can keep the right mindset and heart set, I believe that the studying of disease and the studying of wrongs in the world, the paying attention to them, shining a light on them. Evil does not dwell where light dwells. Darkness cannot dwell where light dwells. And so I feel like I know where he was trying to go, but it didn't quite get there. End note. Okay. What concerns you is the cure. I do not say that you should be hard-hearted or unkind or refuse to hear the cry of need. But in obtaining a good life, in obtaining abundance, that is the best way you can help those in need. What tends to do away with poverty is not the getting of pictures of poverty into your mind, but the getting of pictures of abundance, unlimited access to and free use of many things, into the minds of the impoverished. You are not deserting the poor to their misery when you refuse to allow your mind to be filled with pictures of that misery. Poverty can be done away with, not necessarily by increasing the number of well-to-do people who think about poverty, but by increasing the number of impoverished people who know, who propose, and who learn with faith and trust to have unlimited access to and free use of many things, who learn how to obtain abundance. The poor don't need charity, they need inspiration. Charity sends a loaf of bread to keep them alive in their wretchedness, or gives them entertainment to make them forget for an hour or two. But inspiration will cause them to rise out of their circumstance. If you want to help the poor, if you want to help the impoverished, demonstrate that they can have abundance. Prove it by your life. Note, charity can keep from starvation. The beginning of this book indicates that we need and desire warm shelter, good food, and beautiful things. Studies have established that food, shelter, and health and or relationships are essential foundations for humankind. If I'm starving, I'm not in a biological state, to really focus on other wants. I am focused on my immediate needs. Charity is not a permanent solution, but there is a place for it. It is good work. Look at Jesus. Once my essential needs are met, there is the opportunity to imagine. End note. The only way in which poverty will ever be banished from this world is by getting a large and constantly increasing number of people to practice the teachings of the right to good life. People must be taught to become abundant by creation, not by competition. Everyone who becomes rich by competition destroys behind them the ladder by which they rose and keeps others down. But everyone who gets rich, who obtains abundance, who obtains a good life by creation, opens a way for thousands to follow them and inspires them to do so. Use your willpower to keep your mind fixed with faith and trust and purpose on the vision of what you want.